We were the recipient of a 4-year grant through June 2010. So we are required to bring forth this proposal for a professional service contract yearly because it exceeds the board limit for professional service contract. That is E1. E2. Yes, Mr. Ford.
Mr. Ford.
Is this the grant? This grant. When we apply for the grant, is this the situation where we actually identified EduShift as the third-party provider?
For the federal grant, it was required to identify a credible third-party evaluator for the submission of the grant, and EduShift was identified in the grant application. Yes.
And as I think I talked about this in Finance Committee somewhat, but if at all possible, if before we send in the possible group or person that might be able to provide the services, I would like to see if we could take some time to get more than one or get some other individuals involved in looking at providing their names as possible grant suppliers. That was my only concern, is that I know that because sometimes time is of the essence and we need to know what type of resources are out there, but if we do have time, I'd like to see us in the future take a look at if we can get some more information from different providers. I'm not saying that EduShift may not be the person or the company we go with. It's just that I think that in the best interest of the district, sometimes if we have the time, I know these grants, sometimes there's time is of the essence. We don't have that type of time, but that was my only concern.
Yes, Mr. Ford, during the Finance Committee, you did bring up that point, and we think it is a very valid one, especially with the additional restricted funds coming from the Reinvestment and Recovery Act, that we will need more grant writers, as well as many districts are going to be looking for very reliable and credible grant writers. So I think that's a good idea. Okay. Enclosure E2 is another professional service contract. The contractor, Joel Van Rokel, is a contracted service request for a gentleman who comes in and is very expert in the field of writing. He has worked in many of our schools. His services will exceed $5,000, which is why we have brought before you tonight a request for an additional contract not to exceed $8,000. And there does describe to you, let's see, I do believe it is, is this Lyons? Is this Fairview? I'm sorry, I can't remember. Fairview. This is for Fairview. Lucy Calkins. He is in the classrooms with teachers modeling lessons, and it is a continuation as Fairview has had Joel in his building for professional development opportunities prior to this second request. Funded out of Title II Highly Qualified Teacher Professional Development Funds, and approved by the Michigan Department of Education. Enclosure E3 is for teach.
Could I have a question?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Davis.
I just want to clarify. We have Fairview is adopting this coaching and so on. How does that happen? I mean, this is coming out of Title IIA. Is this money that's allocated in some way to each school, and then they can turn around and request certain assistance? Is that what's going on here?
Yes. Last year, when the schools were required back in February and March to prepare a school improvement plan for the 2008-2009 school year, they used their Title IIA grant allocation for their building to prepare a professional development plan. In Fairview's plan, it included bringing this contractor in to work with teachers on improving their writing skills and students' writing skills. or teaching writing skills and the students' writing skills. So it is in their professional development plan, and it is based on Fairview's comprehensive needs assessment, which states which, in what area teachers need support and students need assistance. So it was planned last year and approved by the Michigan Department of Education in the district's consolidated application.
Okay, just to clarify, we are struggling with writing in, I think, almost every one of the elementary schools, maybe a few exceptions. So I'm trying to understand the process. Have the other schools requested a program to enhance the writing skills of the children? How many have? And are they all on this program? I mean, I don't remember. I don't know how many we've seen like this that have said Lucy Calkins in the where we've had it before us and voted on it. Has there been a lot of them?
Every school's improvement plan has a writing goal. It may be that their professional development did not exceed the $5,000 and therefore did not have to come before the board. But for this particular contractor, the request has exceeded the amount.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, E3, closure E3 is for the continuation and expansion of TeachScape. It is funded, the request will be funded out of Title IIA, Highly Qualified Teacher and Administrator Training. We worked very closely with the Michigan Department of Education and requested that we expand the offerings to the middle school principals who participated in the 5 Saturday TeachScape trainings for administrators as part of our high school reform initiative. Our middle school principals, since they weren't included in the original proposal, but we had open seats, we wanted to make sure that the coaching came to their buildings and worked very closely with them. It's very similar to the offerings that our high school administrators had. So the MDE was very helpful in allowing us to expand this professional service to our middle school principals, with the expectation that we'll be focusing on middle schools next year. So all grant funded. Mm-hmm.
Shirley Rogers.
I don't understand why we had vacancies for high school administrators. Could you?
Sure.
Okay.
When we requested the proposal and for a competitive bid, we left open the number of slots for administrators in the training, in the professional development workshops. They, in their proposal, made mention 25, and we do not have 25 high school administrators, including even our assistant principals. So we ran with it and brought in our middle school principals to fill up the slots. So we didn't leave a seat open. Okay. And lastly, enclosure E4 is for Evans Newton Incorporated. It's a combination of the request for materials and for professional development. We competitively bid as is requested, and Evans Newton Incorporated was the sole bid for the formative assessments and the management system for our middle school courses, which include 6, 7, and 8, English language arts, and math. So we are expanding our supplemental formative assessments into our middle schools and those 2 content areas that are used to determine adequate yearly progress. What it also includes is the professional development for our English language arts and math teachers so that they are comfortable and competent in using the formative assessments and the data that it generates for our students in 6 through 8 English language arts and math at our middle schools.